You're on.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the year that was. And we are now in the third week of 1997. If you guys haven't listened to the show before, what we're doing is we're chronologically going through week by week the year that was 1997. So it's a long haul to get to December, but we're going to get there. And tonight I am joined by Archie Mitchell and Nate Maxon.
What's up, everybody?
Hello.
You guys introduce yourselves or say your salutations or whatever the fuck you want to call it. But just welcome to the show. Do you guys have anything? Do you guys have anything before we?
Well, if I could be serious for a minute, blame yourselves and not Canada.
All right, Archie Storm.
All right.
You know what's unfortunate about that? I know Aaron wants to get to 1997.
He should have been huge. He should have been so over.
All I ever think of is, unfortunately, I can't think of Lance Storm, the great wrestler. I have to think of WCW 2000.
When he danced?
That was in WWE.
Yeah, well, still.
Steve Austin come out and chanting boring at him while he's working.
Yep.
I don't think Vince liked Lance Storm very much, but
I think you might be onto something there.
I don't think Vince liked anybody from WCW except for maybe Booker T and Goldberg.
He really likes Goldberg.
Yeah.
Wow. He didn't like Goldberg then, but he likes him now.
Did you hear my rant on if you smell what the arch is cooking, Nate?
Yeah.
Yeah, I went off for about a good 15 minutes on Mickey James and Goldberg.
But all right, we're going to kick this off with the roll call of champions. The WWF over there, their IC champion is Triple H.
Ooh.
The tag team champions are still Owen and the Bulldog. And the new WWF champion is Shawn Michaels. He just won it the night before at the Royal Rumble.
The man's man, Shawn Michaels.
Yes. Over in
As much of a Shawn Michaels fan as I am, I have to admit he won it in front of a hometown papered crowd.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Yes.
What did they say? It was a 60,000 person sellout arena or something like that. And there was maybe like 30,000 paid.
Yep.
Ridiculous.
Then over in WCW land, the WCW champion is Hulk Hogan. The U.S. champion is Eddie Guerrero. The TV champion is still William Regal. The tag champs are the Outsiders. And the Cruiserweight champion is Ultimo Dragon. So all of them are still holding over from the last 2 weeks. And
Good
then
champions there.
Yes. And then over in ECW, the ECW World Champion is Raven. The TV champion is Shane Douglas. And the tag team champions are the Eliminators. So look how awesome 1997 was.
Definitely.
There's not a bad poll in the entire roll call of champions there.
As you go through this show throughout the year, anytime I'm on, I'll just say it every time. Aaron knows this. 97 is my favorite year in professional wrestling ever.
Yes. It's my second favorite, and that's why I went with it. And there's a lot of meat on the bone. There's a lot of things that go on in 97. It was a game changer for professional wrestling.
Definitely.
That's why I wanted to kick it off with this. But Raw kicks off with a Royal Rumble recap voiced over by Shawn Michaels, by Vince McMahon, Jim Ross, and Jerry the King Lawler. And then Vince and Ross and Lawler do something that I miss. They open the show and they're standing. They do a stand-up. They're standing by the ring, hyping what's coming up. I always liked when they did that. They don't do that. This is the first full week of wrestling I've watched since the pandemic, and I don't even know if they show the commentators.
Very rarely.
They usually wind up showing them after the first segment, maybe, but never before the first segment. You never see them. You never actually see them during the intro anymore.
Right, unless somebody gets put through their table.
And I didn't know that new guy was on there. And I swear to God, when he introduced himself, I thought he said, "This is Jimmy Smits, and welcome to Monday Night Raw."
Well, yeah, everybody thought that. Everybody thought that when he got hired.
Like, all right, NYPD blue guy. All right.
Who knew Princess Leia's dad was going to eventually become the main guy on Raw?
But as they're introducing the show, Bret Hart comes out, and Bret Hart does. And when he comes out, it's something they don't do. Bret Hart comes out unexpectedly. So guess what doesn't happen?
No
they
music?
don't play his music.
Right.
Like Bret Hart just comes out, and he's very pissed because of the fact that Steve Austin eliminated him illegally from the Royal Rumble, and then he illegally eliminated everybody else. Then he starts chewing out Vince McMahon, and he said the other person I have a problem. He said everybody's screwing him. Steve Austin screws him. The WWF screwing him, and he points at Vince and he says, "You screwed me." He said, "You promised me all kinds of things like a title match, and I didn't get it." And then Bret Hart proceeds to quit the WWF and walk out, and it's fucking awesome. I know I don't get justice on what I'm describing, but it's just fucking great.
I know where this show is going, and when you get to the end of this show, or I don't know if it's exactly at the end, but I really want to elaborate on something. But I'll give you the high sign, as the Sandman would say when I want to elaborate.
The thing about this one was Bret was beginning his bitching mode, where he would just everybody was screwing him. Shawn screwed him. Sid screwed him. The Undertaker. Now it's Austin again, and it wasn't so much that Bret was bitching. This was the beginning of them actually calling out Vince as being the owner of the WWF, if nobody knew it yet.
Yeah.
Because when Bret says, "You promised me all these things," a not-so-smart fan, me, case in point, when I was younger, went, "Well, why would a commentator promise him all these things and he think he's going to get it?" You know, and then as the years go on, you realize, oh, wait, Vince is the guy behind the,
This is not in any way, shape, or form anything Vince McMahon would ever think of.
Right.
But where they could have gone with that if they didn't want to acknowledge Vince as the owner, but still do this, is back in the day in like Florida Championship Wrestling or Continental Championship Wrestling when Gordon Solie was the lead announcer, the wrestlers would go to him and be like, "Gordon Solie, I want a match next week."
Right.
Because the hint was that Gordon Solie, as the lead announcer, had a connection to the guys in charge.
Right.
You know? So anyway, that's totally off topic.
And I think this was also Vince doing this to present himself as the owner, was because Bischoff came out as the leader of the NWO by now. So it was starting to piss Vince off that Bischoff was getting so much camera time.
More than likely.
And then something cool that they do is, and they probably wouldn't do this today, but Vince McMahon leaves. Like, he just leaves the booth and he goes to the back. He doesn't just go sit down and like, "Oh, I gotta talk about it." Like, Vince's character was like, "Holy shit."
Right.
Yeah.
My second biggest star or whatever just walked out. I got to go handle this.
I got to go kiss his ass.
Yeah. Well, then, and Bret leaves through the crowd, goes out the back door. He doesn't go back up the aisle. He leaves through the crowd. And then Steve Austin comes out and he starts to try to cut his promo, and his mic doesn't work, and he gets mad and he yells at the equipment guy. He says, "Are you going to give me a piece of equipment that works, or am I going to have to whoop your ass?" And the guy gives him a very quickly. And then he tells Bret, "Go on, go home, because the only guy you can beat is your old wrinkled man. Your wrinkled old man." Let me say this again, because I laugh. Yeah.
Your old wrinkled man. Is that Bret's penis?
He says, go home, because the only guy you can beat is your wrinkled old man in his stupid basement.
You think Stu Hart ever tuned into Raw and was like, "Fuck, they're cutting me up again"? Damn it.
No, he probably laughed.
At this point, he had no idea what was going on.
Right. I was like, "Honey, they mentioned you on the TV again." What?
And Steve says he wants to fight Taker right now because Taker and Austin is the main event, but that doesn't happen. Then the opening match is Owen Hart and the Bulldog versus Furnace and LaFon. The winners of this match are Owen and Bulldog, obviously, when Owen hits LaFon with his slammy and Davey gives him the power slam. The only note I really have from this is that Doug Furnace had one of the best drop kicks in professional wrestling.
Yes, he did. And it's a crying shame that him and LaFon never really got over with the crowd enough. I guess because they couldn't really cut a promo. It wasn't their fault. They were great in the ring.
They had no charisma whatsoever.
Right.
And then what?
not to cut you off, but thinking about those guys at this time in '97, imagine how much better off they would have been in WCW.
Yeah.
Tying it up with the Steiner Brothers and the Nasty Boys and
Or the
Harlem
Powers
Heat
of Pain.
and the Faces of Fear.
Faces of Fear, sorry.
That's okay, but no, I knew what you're saying. Like, imagine those two in that tag team division of just guys that just potato each other and just beat the shit out of each other on a weekly basis. They would have fit in so much better in the WCW tag division at this time.
You know how DiBiase left the NWO and went to go manage the Steiner Brothers? Imagine if he would have did that, and it would have been Furnace and LaFon with DiBiase as their mouthpiece.
Yeah.
It would have worked so much better than these two guys just coming out having a really stiff match, which was great to watch, but not be able to put themselves over because the crowd is just sitting there going, okay, who are they?
To terrible generic music. Anyway.
Yeah. And then just a side note, they tell you to stay tuned after Raw for a 2-part feature of La Femme Nikita.
La Femme Nikita.
And Jim Ross says, La Femme Nikita, she could probably beat up that little wimp Robin Hood.
Because of the Robin Hood deal.
Yes, and then they proceed to make fun of the Robin Hood thing that they did last week on Nitro.
What was first, La Femme Nikita or Silk Stockings?
Silk Stockings.
Okay.
Silk Stockings would come on, you knew, okay, it's time to go to bed because I'm about to get in trouble.
Nate always asks the obscure, dumb questions. Go ahead.
No, because I was about to say, I used to like Silk Stockings after all, so you segued into me. You were fine.
Then in just a whatever match, Farouk beats Bart Gunn.
Ooh, that was a barn burner.
And then Vince McMahon brings out Gorilla Monsoon, who ends up he says he can't reverse the decision of the Royal Rumble because the manager's decision is final, but he is taking away the shot from Steve Austin. And then he sets up a fatal 4-way with The Undertaker, Vader, Steve Austin, and if he chooses to accept it and will return, Bret Hart. Then Stone Cold comes out and yells at Gorilla Monsoon and says, you call yourself a gorilla, but you're out here hee-hawing like a jackass. And then Bret comes back, and I know where Nate's probably going to go with this, but Bret comes back, accepts the match, and starts a brawl with Steve Austin.
And that is where I was going to go. Yes, you're right. Bret Hart. This is the beginning of the heel turn, and this is the perfect example of that character. Like, I didn't get what I want. I quit. Well, 40 minutes later, he kind of gets what he wants. He's like, you know what? I'll come back because I'm getting what I want now.
Yeah. Bret basically walked out on the WWE about 4 times before he actually walked out on the WWE. You know, he didn't give a shit. He wasn't too proud to say, I'm not getting my way. I'm going home, you know.
And then they get Bret out of the ring. They settle some shit down, but Undertaker comes out and he punches Bret. And then he gets in the ring, and him and Austin proceed to have a match, but it just turns into a schmall. Vader comes out, and he gets choke slammed. Bret comes out, and he attacks Austin, and they go off the air, hyping the fatal 4-way match, and there's no decision to this, and that's how Raw goes off the air.
You know what really sucks? They made that fatal 4-way, and they could have very easily have made it a fatal 5-way by adding the fake Diesel. But they weren't taking that guy seriously. No. Because Austin eliminated him illegally too. So technically he could have been involved in that. But they were like, no, this is not the character that we're trying to get over. We're trying to get over these 4.
Yeah, poor Glenn Jacobs.
Yeah.
So that's the end of Raw. You guys got any other thoughts on that?
Good episode.
Yeah, and my thoughts are that this is the time where they start telling more layered stories.
Right.
And you know, rivalries intertwine. You're starting to blur the lines between face and heel, or maybe not blur the lines between face and heel, but letting the fans choose. Exactly. You know, who they want to cheer and who they want to boo.
Unless it's Shawn Michaels, then we paper an arena and bring in his friends and relatives to cheer for him.
Yes. Then Nitro kicks off with Tony Schiavone and Larry Zbyszko. Welcome everybody to the show. And then the Macho Man storms out, throws a chair in the ring, says he's not leaving until he gets some answers and wants to talk to somebody with some stroke. And says he wants to kick Bischoff, and then says Bischoff can kick his ass. And Zbyszko says, I don't think he can say that. And Schiavone goes, well, he just did. And Savage, once again, is talking about wanting to talk to somebody with some stroke. And Zbyszko says, I don't have any stroke in the office. I'm in the undercard. Which I thought was kind of funny.
I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt and a sport jacket, man. Leave me alone.
The human game of chess.
Yeah. Well, Savage is sitting in the middle of the ring, and Schiavone says that Craig Leathers says, let's just go with it. So he sends out Chavo Guerrero Jr., and Chavo Guerrero Jr. is supposed to be opening the show versus Max.
Max Muscle, yeah. What a great match that would have been.
Chavo comes in. He's trying to talk Savage into leaving. Savage won't. Savage gets up, and Chavo thinks that Savage is going to leave, so he pats him on the shoulder. Savage takes that as a force of aggression or whatever. So then he beats the shit out of Chavo, and the people go crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Then Max comes out, and then Savage beats him up.
Now, this is where I have a fault. Chavo walked in the ring and was like, come on, Randy, let's be civilized. You know, you don't got to take over the whole show. He was trying peacefully. Max comes out and goes, this is my time. You're in my ring. This is supposed to be my match. And it's like, what did you think Randy Savage was going to do to you? You're enhancement talent, for Christ's sake.
Well, and I was going to say a segment like this where a wrestler comes out and hijacks the show, puts a chair in the middle of the ring. Is there a better person to perform a segment like this than Randy Savage?
No, because he's a loose cannon.
Randy Savage, he's a loose cannon. He's unexpected. Like, even when he's sitting in the chair, he's twitching, and his crazy hair's out from under his do-rag, and he just looks insane.
He's in all black, which looks like he's about to join the NWO. You know what I mean? So it's just like he's just sitting there, and like you said, he's twitching like he had some bad shit, you know. And then here comes Max Muscle to get him out of the ring. Like, really? Really?
He doesn't even give Max the opportunity to leave. He just beats the shit out of him.
He just punches him in the face, right? He's like, fuck you.
Bravo, you're cool. I'll let you talk for a little bit, but then you touched me. Max Muscle, fuck you.
Right.
Then Doug Dillinger comes out, and Tony Schiavone goes, oh, Doug Dillinger, everything will be okay now.
Yeah.
Dillinger gets in the ring, and Randy Savage smacks the shit out of him. Then Alex Wright shows up for some reason. He gets beat up. And then Sting drops from the ceiling.
Wait, you didn't know about the great friendship between Alex Wright and Macho Man? Like, he was going to calm the situation down. Dance with me, Randy. Dance.
Then Sting drops from the ceiling, taunts Savage with a bat. And then he gives Savage the bat, and they leave together.
Fucking insane. The same way Bret Hart left, through the crowd.
Yes. So this was actually really entertaining. It was good shit.
Yes, it was.
Then we get a recap of Chono joining the NWO a couple weeks back. And Jericho is going to move into his match with Alex Wright. And the reason this match is happening is because Jericho will be facing Chono at Sold Out, which we'll be talking about next week. So everybody look forward to that. Jericho just beats Alex Wright with a forward roll. Nothing really to talk about here, unless you guys got anything, but there really isn't much there.
Well, just a quick question, a little off topic. What was the worst, I know it's not a word, but what was the worst selling pay-per-view? Hog Wild or NWO Sold Out?
NWO Sold Out.
I think so.
That's why they never did another NWO pay-per-view.
Right.
I thought we were going to Massachusetts. As Archie said, Worcester.
Worcester, yeah. Worcestershire sauce.
And then the next match is NWO Sting versus Scotty Riggs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Less said about that, the best.
I was thinking the same thing.
The only note is that Scotty Riggs, as he's making his entrance, Like, in WCW, they like to have guys cut promos as they were walking to the ring, into the camera. And Scotty Riggs says, "I'm going to knock Buff on his duff."
Nice. Nice.
Yeah,
I assume he came out to the American Males music.
Yeah, and NWO Sting. Oh, go ahead, sorry.
The American Males music doesn't even get started till they get to the ring. Like that music's dumb because like the first 30 seconds of it are just like.
Yep.
Anyway.
And NWO Sting comes out to the even more porno sounding B team NWO music. It's like a dirty porno song. Scotty Riggs wins this one by DQ because the NWO runs out and he runs away from them. You can buy an NWO shirt for $20. As a kid, I remember thinking $20 for a T-shirt? That's ridiculous. Now a T-shirt at Walmart costs like $20.
You want to know the truth, though? An NWO T-shirt on WWE.com is still $20, and I still find it crazy.
One of my favorite lines ever is Kevin Nash saying, "You can buy our NWO shirt for $20, 2 for $40." Just then there's a WCW Saturday Night Hype commercial. Then Ric Flair interviews some fucking hockey guy. I don't know who he was. Some Chicago Blackhawks guy. Then we roll into the tag team match of the night. It's Mongo McMichael, who is over like Rover because they're in Chicago. Like, seriously, I'm not joking. Like, Mongo is like getting like the biggest pops other than the NW. People are going fucking ape shit for Mongo McMichael. Like, I'm like, this dude is like probably still talks about it. Like, the greatest night of my life was teaming with Arn Anderson in Chicago, baby. I had them going crazy. Like, they were going crazy for everything. But they fight the weird team of Eddie Guerrero and Jeff Jarrett.
It is a weird team.
Yeah.
There's the point in the match where Eddie Guerrero runs away and abandons the team, and Shivani and Zbyszko are just like, Eddie Guerrero just left. What's the deal with that?
Wasn't it because Six was trying to steal his United States title?
No, Six already has the belt.
Right.
But apparently during the match, Six came out, got up on a ladder, and was taunting Guerrero.
Right.
And the WCW production crew just completely missed it.
Right.
Good job.
But yet Tony Schiavone and Larry Zbyszko couldn't look down the aisle and see what was going on.
Yeah, so they they legit had no idea what happened because, after he runs away, they're like, oh, well, apparently Six came out and got on a ladder. I didn't see that.
So
but anyway,
now they're going to have a ladder match and sold out.
Which is one of the only good things about that entire pay-per-view, but we'll talk about that next week. The winners of that match are Arn Anderson and Mongo. Then we have a 4 horseman interview where Flair's talking about usually, I'm all about the ladies, but the guys are worrying too much about ladies and need to be worrying about working. And then there is a very boring Eric Bischoff NWO style interview. Bischoff's usually pretty good, but this thing just drug on. It was boring.
Is it when he's sitting on the motorcycle?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that one.
It dragged, and he got to no point. It was boring.
Well, because it was like watching the little nerdy high school kid trying to act cool. Bischoff couldn't pull that off.
It was essentially watching Eric Bischoff jerk off on TV.
Yeah, it was not fun. I understand they wanted him now to be the figurehead of the NWO, but he wasn't cool at any point in time.
And see, I understand. See, that was part of the cool thing about the Bischoff character was that he was like this little dweeb or whatever, and all the NWO guys were being nice to him because he was the boss. But this thing's just drug
terrible.
And then Ultimo Dragon and Dean Malenko have a match for the Cruiserweight Championship, which was
probably incredible.
It was really good. And Ultimo Dragon ends up winning that with a small package. Then Tony, Bobby, and Mike hype hour number 2. They set off the pyro. Shivani's laying it on thick with saying this is the hour that changed wrestling. Da-da-da-da-da-da. And we get Jacques Rougeau versus Steven Regal for the WCW Television Championship.
That was probably really good.
It was,
On paper, it was good.
but it has a weird finish. Like, Regal's basically working as a face during this match.
Right.
Because who's going to cheer Jacques Rougeau?
Right.
But I don't like Jacques Rougeau, but Jacques Rougeau's an amazing heel.
Yeah.
But he's with Robert Parker, who's wearing his goofy outfit or whatever.
Yep.
And then Parker ends up getting involved. Regal beats up Parker, and they give the match. They give the match to Regal for disqualification.
They should have booked. They should have booked Regal and Chives to take on Parker and Jacques Rougeau. That would have been a great tag match.
So that ends in DQ, and the people kind of go crazy for Regal. The Chicago crowd was into everybody. Like, they were into Mongo more than anybody, but they were eating everything up on this thing.
Oh yeah,
Chicago's the best wrestler. People can say what they want to say about New York, and I ain't hating on it, but Chicago's the best crowd in wrestling history.
Oh no, New Yorkers. I've been to plenty of New York shows. They'll shit on anything just for the sake of making it, sound bad. They just do it for the hell of it.
But Chicago just loves them some wrestling. Man.
Oh yeah.
The next match is Kevin Sullivan versus Chris Benoit. And they're saying this match is happening as a preview for what's going to happen on the Clash of the Champions, which we're not going to talk about because they haven't put Clash of the Champions on the network yet.
That was the infamous Nancy on a pole match, right? No, wait. Vince Russo wasn't there yet.
Yeah, Vince Russo wasn't here yet.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing Nancy on a pole. That'd have been hot. But the match starts because Sullivan or Benoit attacks Sullivan as he's coming out. They brawl all over the building. Obviously, they go into the restroom. They do some crazy shit. And then they finally make it to the ring, and the ref rings the bell, so the match starts. And the match is not very long. Benoit knocks Sullivan down. Jimmy Hart, as Benoit's going to the top, Jimmy Hart, as Benoit's going to the top, throws Sullivan the ring bell, and Sullivan rolls over and lets Benoit, or has Benoit, as he's going for his swan dive, Benoit basically butts the ring bell.
Yep.
And it's more glimpses into, man, I wonder how Chris Benoit fucked his brain up.
Right. Right.
There was very, how do I want to say it? The way it had, Benoit headbutted that ring bell. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, you actually heard it go ding.
But yeah, he headbutted that thing. And Kevin Sullivan pins him. And then the NWO rolls out and takes over the set. And then they just do their typical NWO, making fun of everybody, shitting on everything, which is fine because that's what they should have been doing. Which that rolls into the next match, which is Jim Duggan versus Carl Ouellette.
That's weird.
Yes.
Right?
Kevin Nash says that Jim... he says, for one, Kevin Nash is, and if anybody knows their wrestling backstage folklore or whatever, Kevin Nash is shitting all over Carl Ouellette in this situation.
Yep.
I'm sure he is.
Nothing. Like, nothing. Like, when Duggan comes out, he's saying, like, oh, Duggan, he's a big, tough athlete, even though they're going to make fun of him. But, yeah, he doesn't say anything positive about Carl Ouellette.
You know what I always wonder about the Clique? So you have... Do you think that this is just like an existential question or whatever? Seeing their personalities, and especially seeing how Kevin Nash is like one of the best. I mean, say what you want about him, but nobody can bury somebody like Kevin Nash.
Oh, definitely.
Like, just silver tongue. But what I've always wondered is, did he learn that skill from Scott Hall, who passed it down to Sean, who passed it down to Hunter,
definitely.
Or did Scott Hall? Did that part of Scott Hall's personality come out once he hooked up with Kevin Nash? You know what I mean? Like, because Scott was the veteran of the Clique. A lot of people forget about that. But he was like, But I always wonder that, like, who was the one that taught everybody else how to play that game?
That was Hall. That was Hall.
That was Hall.
Had to have been. And while Nash was burying Willette on Nitro, Shawn Michaels was off watching in somewhere at Raw, going, "That's it, yeah, get him, show him what he gets when he messes it up," you know.
And the only one that didn't do that to people was Waltman.
Yeah,
because he was too small.
Well, no, it's just because Waltman. I mean, I know he's got his problems, but like anybody that you hear from, like you'll hear guys like talk shit about Hunter, Shawn, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, but I think Waltman just liked those guys, but was just a nice dude. You know what I mean?
That's true.
He wasn't selfish,
mm-hmm.
you know, and because he knew that guy knew he was never going to be the fucking champ.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So he had no reason to like.
He's a classic example of somebody. And we'll just say like Dean Malenko, and obviously he learned from Dean's dad, but he's a classic example of somebody who knew his skill set and knew how his skill set was supposed to be used in the story of professional wrestling and did it to the best of his ability.
Yeah. Kevin Nash does something funny in this. Like Doug is like waving the big WCW flag around that he had, which was like way bigger than what it needed to be.
Yep.
And Kevin Nash is like, he's really making me mad. I think we should just go down there and beat him up and spray paint him. Like I thought it was funny.
I feel that was totally real too. Nash was like, we should just go down there and beat him up and spray paint him. Bishop was like, you can't say that on TV. Stop it.
And then Duggan ends up winning with a tape fist because the Steiner brothers come out and. For some reason, I know it's because they're feuding with the Outsiders, but they don't even go to like the table to try to attack the Outsiders. They just go get involved in this match.
I know we like to sometimes, and I don't really hate on Jim Duggan because I do actually like Jim Duggan. But in WCW, let's be honest, Jim Duggan was there for a paycheck, and he was as lazy as he wanted to be. But what I will say is, when you watch Duggan with the tape fist thing,
Jesus,
I'll get to my point. He is an old pro when it comes to that because he's still thinking about being in an arena and not on TV. What I'm saying is when he puts the tape around his fist, he swings it so that everybody up top can see it. You know what I mean?
Right. It was very over dramatic about putting tape on your hand. You know?
Yeah. It's a good old fashioned pro move. You know, you're working to the crowd in the arena, not the crowd on TV.
And then the next match is Masahiro Chono, who Eric Bischoff calls Masa My Hero Chono. And he's fighting Dave Taylor, who's apparently doing now a pheasant hunter gimmick. Like he's dressed like a pheasant hunter.
I'm not a blue blood anymore.
And obviously Kevin Nash has a lot of fun with that.
Of course.
Like he basically says, "Oh, this is Dave Taylor. He's got to be tough if you're walking around dressed like a pheasant hunter." But obviously, Chono wins that match. And then the main events of this show: Scott Hall, who they're hyping as this is the first time Scott Hall has wrestled on Nitro, which is true. He defeats Booker T in a good match with the Outsider's Edge. Then they go to commercial and they come back out. And they come back from the break, and Stevie Ray comes out. And Kevin Nash goes, "Wait, didn't we just see that guy?"
Oh, Jesus.
He goes, "Damn." Oh. He's like, "Never mind, that's the other one."
Damn.
And Stevie Ray and Lex Luger have a match that is not good, which Lex Luger wins.
It doesn't sound good.
It was bad. And then Hulk Hogan comes out, starts cutting a promo, and then the Giant comes out and fights with the NWO, and that's how we go off here.
We're headed into Sold Out, which we'll get to it, next week?
Yes, that'll be the kickoff for next week.
That is a shitty-ass pay-per-view, but we'll get to that.
Yes, it's a Saturday pay-per-view, and it's rough to watch.
It's horrible.
I don't know. I know we're not talking about it yet, but I don't know what was worse, the wrestling or the really bad commentary job.
All of it.
Sure, all of it, right? Combined.
All of it. Everything. All of the things were bad about the pay-per-view. There's only one good thing on that pay-per-view, but we'll get to it next week.
Yes. So any other thoughts on this Nitro that we just went through? It was actually not too bad. And so you got to like the end. The main event was terrible.
Few good matches, but it was really, it seemed like they really tried to cram as much NWO stuff as they could. I mean, even the Savage and Sting stuff had to do with the NWO.
And it is also a, what I want to say, this Aaron just recapping this episode of Nitro is an indictment of what you always say about Nitro. Like when you were describing the undercard stuff, I was like, that sounds like a good match. That sounds like a good match. And then you get to the main event stuff, and it's like, that was probably pretty booty.
Right.
You know, like they had that fantastic undercard and some, I mean, what a fucking roster.
But if they would have just moved like Malenko and Ultimo Dragon to the Carl Willett, Axel Jim Duggan spot and done Booker T versus Scott Hall as the main event, it would have been a much better show. Because they didn't have the right placement for certain matches. Like who bought a ticket for Nitro that night, weeks ahead of schedule, a month ahead of schedule, thinking, yeah, I'm going to see Lex Luger and Stevie Ray burn down. No. You know?
So, like I said, for a show, it wasn't bad. Kept me entertained. But it just, like I said, not a whole lot happened on it. The Savage thing was cool. The NWO had some funny lines. But other than that, it was just kind of a blasé.
It was a B. It was
show.
A B- show.
Yeah.
Leading into a F pay-per-view.
And the thing is, like, it's kind of a blasé deal, but they're moving into, like, they got Clash of the Champions, like, is the next day. Then they're going in the NWO pay-per-view. And they literally only hyped.
Sold out.
They didn't even really hype sold out. The only thing they really even hyped that was going to be on sold out was Chono and Jericho.
Right.
And Hogan and Giant. Like, that's all they talked about.
Mm.
And
well, they missed the shot with Guerrero and X-Pac.
Right. Right.
So then, but yeah, it was just they really did nothing to hype NWO sold out. So no wonder it was a fucking failure. Anything else on that, guys?
No, sir.
Nope.
No, we're good.
Okay. Well, the next show obviously is ECW.
Oh, I hope they have a Pulp Fiction. I hope they have a Pulp Fiction theme.
They do not do Pulp Fiction on this one.
Damn it!
I even have that in my notes.
So let me get this straight. No Pulp Fiction theme with people talking and recapping stuff, and no indie results. I quit. All right, let's hear about ECW.
All right, ECW. It opens with Joey Styles in mid-ring, welcoming everybody to the ECW arena. And as Joey's getting ready to hype the show, he looks off camera and goes, Tommy, look out. And Tommy's up in the Eagle Nest with Paulie and the Triple Threat, who they're not the Triple Threat yet. But Brian Lee, Chris Candido, and Shane Douglas attack Tommy Dreamer.
Yep.
With a trash can. They beat the shit out of him. Like, they beat the shit out of him with this trash can.
Yep.
They smack him like 7 times in the head. And then they throw him off the stage.
Yep.
Or throw him off the Eagle's Nest. He just goes off into the ether. You don't hit it. You don't see him hit, but he gets thrown off.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is
ECW's fans decided in this big moment they were just going to chant, "She's a whore." Francine did nothing to Tommy Dreamer, but they were just like, you know what? She's a whore.
ECW crowd, always classy.
We were 2.5 years away from Francine betraying Tommy, but she was already a whore.
Yes. Well, you got to remember though, this was at the height of the Gary Wolf.
Yeah.
Getting his neck thing.
Yep.
Yeah, that was white hot heat, man. Then they jump down off the stage and they start beating up Tommy some more, and then Terry Funk makes the save and runs off the soon-to-be anointed Triple Threat, and they get him onto a stretcher, him being Tommy, and they're rolling Tommy out. They're almost to the ambulance, and then for some reason, Tommy Rich attacks Tommy Dreamer, who's on the stretcher, and then proceeds to beat Terry Funk up with a chair.
Somebody say something about getting confused.
Yeah. And like, there's no explanation of why
Ever.
Tommy Rich did this.
Ever.
But Tommy
Ever.
Rich did it.
He isn't, is he in the FBI yet at this point?
No, he's still wearing his Tommy Rich, like long Tommy Rich tights and his black vest. There's no FBI yet. It's just Tommy Rich, and he just attacks.
But when I say they never explain why, ever, like we go months, weeks, years, no one ever said, and Tommy Rich did this because he had a problem with Terry Funk in the 80s, or he hates Tommy Dreamer, or was paid off by Shane Douglas, or he took offense to Francine being a whore. We never get an explanation as to why this happened.
Or he was looking for his 8-ball. Something.
Right,
Give me
right.
something.
Tommy sold me some bad shit, so I had to whip his ass before he went to the hospital.
And then the ECW opening video plays, which ECW, in my humble opinion, always had the coolest
Definitely.
opening video because it's just fucking insane. It was like the beginning of like Cops. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
this is insane shit we can show you. Like, oh, there's a guy in a thong wrestling an alligator. Yeah. Like, you're never gonna see that on Cops. Like, the opening video is the shit you never actually got to see. But anyway,
The opening video is the stuff that, like, remember in like the mid '90s they'd advertise the VHS tapes of Cops Uncensored or whatever.
Yeah.
That was the stuff you were going to see on Cops Uncensored in the opening video.
yeah,
Get the full story about Alligator Guy.
yeah. So that's what the ECW opening is. Then they come back and Joey's back in the ring and he goes, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. And he's like, really? You just want me to do it again? So then he's like, welcome to the ECW arena. And the fans cheer again. And then Taz comes out and basically just cuts a promo about Sabu and he's talking about it. And this guy yells, fuck Sabu. Like, really?
Taz snaps.
And Taz, and I don't think he was working.
Nope.
He's like, hey, you asshole, in the black shirt with the white sleeves, and everybody's like looking, and Taz is like, who the fuck do you think you are? Huh? Who'd you ever beat, you fucking asshole? I can say fuck Sabu, but you better never say that shit again until you get in the ring and fucking work, you piece of shit. And this entire building just turns on this guy.
Yep.
Like, I don't know what it hit Taz. He was just like,
oh no, he mentioned it in the I don't know if you ever watched the round table of the ECW, like was Tommy Dreamer, Bubba Ray and Devon, Paulie and Taz all talking about their years in ECW, and Tommy asked him about that, and Taz says, I couldn't see letting a fan disrespect Sabu, and then Tommy said, yeah, but fans were always cursing at us and doing it. What snapped you that night? And Taz said, I don't know. It just, something bothered me that much. I needed to tell that guy off.
Yeah, he pointed him out.
Yep.
I guess that entire building turned on that dude.
That guy walked out, went and got a patch cheesesteak, and never returned to the ECW arena ever again.
So,
Taz yelled at me.
But that happened. And then we roll into a tag team match with the Eliminators, the ECW Tag Team Champions, facing Devon Dudley and Axel Rotten and
Weird
Taz.
tag team.
And yeah, it's a weird tag team. But this was before Devon was officially in the Dudley fold.
Right.
He's still trying to make Bubba a tough guy. But it's like I said, it's the Eliminators versus Axel and Devon. Taz is on commentary, putting over the Eliminators. And then the Eliminators obviously beat Axel Rotten and Devon with the total elimination on Axel. And then afterwards...
That was one of my favorite finishing moves, next to like the Doomsday Device and things like that. It was such a perfectly timed tag team move,
and it's actually more of a believable move than the Doomsday Device.
Right,
you could do it to anybody. That's the best thing to me for a finisher is, can you do this to anybody?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the stunner. You can do the stunner to anybody. Mm-hmm. He's not my favorite guy in the world, but the diamond cutter, you can do that to anybody.
Right.
Yeah. there's a couple other ones I was thinking about. The DDT, you could do that to anybody. You know,
Mhm.
that's what a good finisher is, in my opinion.
Yep. The only time the total elimination ever looked bad
I know where you're going.
was when ECW was in the Manhattan Center on Raw, and they've got like the cameraman or the stagehand or whatever he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's so awkward. Like it looks so staged, you know.
Yep.
Like he's just standing there.
Yeah, and he flip flopped around after he got hit with it too.
Well,
Like,
and
when has Raw ever come back in and there was somebody working on the ring or whatever?
yeah. Even when they were setting him up to do it, he just had this look on. The guy didn't even sell it like he was scared or anything. He just looked like he was just
all right,
standing
go ahead
there
and do it. Just do
like
it.
a fucking dildo in the middle of the ring.
They're not paying me to do this. Just get it over with.
Yeah.
And then the next segment was supposed to be Pitbull 2 facing Bubba Ray Dudley. But Shane Douglas comes out and wants Bubba Ray Dudley to put Pitbull 2 out and collect the bounty that he has on him. But Bubba doesn't want to do it. And then brings out Bad Crew comes out and they get beat up by Bubba and Pitbull 2. Devon comes out and is trying to tell Bubba to toughen up and take the money. And he ends up getting beat up, as well as Axel Rotten. And then Shane Douglas says, if nobody can do it, I'll just do it myself. And then in classic heel psychology in wrestling, he doesn't do it himself. Chris Candido and Brian Lee come out and they beat up Pitbull 2. And then Brian Lee chokeslams Pitbull 2 from the ring to the floor through a table. And Shane Douglas celebrates like he took out Pitbull 2.
Of course he does.
Yes. So it was really good.
Like you said, total heel psychology there.
Yes. So it was actually a pretty good segment. It was crazy, chaotic, which is what ECW is supposed to be.
Definitely.
And then Joey goes down talking about how Shane was supposed to fight Tommy Dreamer for the TV title, and obviously now that's not going to happen because he got thrown off the stage. So that match is not going to happen. So instead, we're going to get Terry Funk versus Brian Lee. And Terry Funk and Brian Lee make their entrances. They go to commercial, and when they come back, the match has started, obviously on the floor. They brawl through the arena. Terry Funk blades or gets busted open early. And they finally wind up in the ring. Then the triple threat gets involved. And Brian Lee once again choke slams somebody from the ring through the table that's on the floor. And that person is Terry Funk. They roll him in the ring. And then Brian Lee pins Terry Funk. And the crowd gets pissed.
Of course.
They're mad.
Of course.
Terry Funk lost. Then Brian Lee proceeds to cradle the knocked out or almost knocked out Terry Funk, calling him an old piece of shit. And your dad must be rolling over in his grave because I just beat up his pussy old son and all this other stuff. And Terry Funk ends up getting mad and coming back and beating up Brian Lee. So they kind of gave Terry his heat back, or you know what I mean, like not his heat, but they gave Terry back what he lost by losing the match. But Brian Lee doesn't lose anything because he pinned Terry Funk. How many people can say they did that? So,
they were pushing Lee very strongly here. And
No, go ahead, Archie.
I think if Lee wouldn't have gotten an offer to go somewhere else and would have stuck around, I think he could have been ECW champion.
I was about to say, as Aaron was talking about the segment with Lee pinning Funk and blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Lee's one of those weird careers in wrestling because if you think about, other than Vince McMahon, in the past, let's say 30 years, the two other best minds that booked wrestling were Paul Heyman and Jim Cornette, right?
Yes. Okay.
Brian Lee's career is so weird to me because obviously those two guys saw this dude as a star,
Yes.
and it just never materialized. I don't know if it was him, if he had an attitude.
I
I
just
don't
always
know.
heard he got in his own way.
What's that?
I always heard he just got in his own way. Not that he was a prick or anything, but just stupid business decisions and stuff like that.
But
Like,
yeah, so you don't think I'm off base with what I'm saying?
Cornette talks about it. He was working for Cornette, and Vince offered him that Underfaker gimmick, and he took it right away.
Right.
And didn't give, like, so he took it right away, and Cornette said Vince called him and said, "Hey, I signed Brian Lee, and I thought he was going to tell me that he wanted to finish up with you first, but he said I could start tomorrow."
Oh.
So Vince was like, "If he do that to you, he's going to do that to me."
Mm-hmm.
So he was like, "I'm just not going to," like, he went through with the Underfaker thing, and I was like, "See ya."
Yeah.
And then why would Cornette want him after that?
Right.
You know, you fucking didn't finish out your bookings, you know, and so like stupid shit like that, you know what I mean? Like, like Cornette was like, Vince appreciated me enough to call me and give me the heads up and saying, "Hey, I'm taking this guy," but he ain't giving you a notice.
if you look at it though, a lot of what Brian Lee did, the same mistakes Mike Awesome made too. A lot of these guys did when they were working for Jim or Paul Lee. It's like they felt they could abuse them a little bit, because even though they gave them their start or gave them a good enough push, it was like, oh, well, if WWF or WCW calls, fuck it, I'm going.
Yeah.
Because they're offering me a great payday and I can do whatever I'm going to do. And then they're going to make me a star. Well, look what happened to Mike Awesome after he left ECW. He became the fat chick thriller.
Mm-hmm.
And that 70s guy. And Brian Lee went from being the Underfaker to being what was it? Chains.
And you can't you can't tell me that if Brian Lee would have called Jim Cornette and said, "Hey Jim, Vince called me, wants me to come in and work with the Undertaker at SummerSlam," Jim Cornette would have been like, "Don't do it," or, "Oh, God damn it." He would have just said, "Okay, give me
2 weeks.
Give me 2 or 3 weeks and I'll write you out."
Right.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to do it. And
Vince, and then after he would have been done as being the Underfaker, he could have went back to Cornette for a little while until Vince was ready to use him.
Or Vince probably would have done something else with him, but Vince said, "If he's going to do that to you, what's going to say he's not going to do that to me?"
Well, also though, I mean, if you look at the big picture of the Underfaker gimmick, what did he get? Like 6 weeks of being the Undertaker, and then the Undertaker came back. They fought at SummerSlam. There was really nowhere to go with Brian Lee after that for a little while, so he would have needed to like go away, cool off, and then come back as something different.
If you believe Meltzer, I know that's hard to comprehend.
Right.
But if you believe Meltzer always at the time reported that the plan was for them to become an Undertaker's tag team after
Jesus. That would have been terrible.
I know. Imagine how much different things could have been.
That would have been terrible. You know, it's lucky that whole thing didn't kill the whole Undertaker gimmick, because, okay, we all believed Mark Calloway was the Undertaker, but now there's another Undertaker. You know what I mean? Like how many guys are dead? You know, how many guys are undead zombies all of a sudden? You know, so, but they're going to be a tag team now known as the Undertakers. Undertaker 1 and Undertaker 2.
Undertaker the first and Undertaker the second. And
they have matching black hoods that they put on to do the Killer Bee switcheroo. Mass confusion when they want to get a win.
They call it mass grave confusion.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on that?
Nope.
All right. Then Joel Gertner, he comes on and he says that he's gonna do his segment, and he's looking at the camera and he goes, "Oh, wait a minute. I can't do this yet. I got a hair out of place." So then he walks over and he looks in the mirror and he's studying his reflection in the mirror, and he's trying to find the hair that's out of place. He pulls out his comb and then he brushes his chest hair.
Yep.
And that's how that segment ends.
I always thought Joe Gertner would have went great with Val Venus. Having him be, I mean, I knew Venus didn't need a promo guy, but they might have played off well against each other. The quintessential stud muffin and the porn star.
Joel Gertner was fantastic.
Definitely.
Yeah, Val would have had his gimmick, and he was the porn star, and Joel was like, I'm not just your corner man in the ring.
Right.
In the corner and watch you work after the show, buddy. But that's not how we end the show.
No, we need a Pulp Fiction montage.
No. Shane Douglas comes out and says that he fucked up Tommy Dreamer. He fucked up Terry Funk. There's nobody, mind you, he's saying I fucked up Tommy Dreamer and I fucked up Terry Funk.
Right.
So there's nobody left to challenge me for my title. And then all of a sudden a masked man comes out and Shane goes, oh, who the fuck's this? Ytw2 Guerrera? And then as he's getting closer, Shane's like, oh shit, he's big. Like Shane's like, ugh. Like he's skeptical of it. And he gets in the ring. The masked man gets in the ring and starts to cut his promo. And everybody knows exactly who he is.
Because he says the key word. He yells, cut the music, I think.
He doesn't. Because he doesn't have music now. He just gets in the ring and starts talking, and Rick Rude has a very distinctive.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And this is like the worst kept secret mystery man since Stagger Lee. Everybody fucking knows who this guy is.
Actually, I was gonna say it's the worst kept secret since the Halloween Phantom.
Yeah.
Right.
That
mustache sticking out from under the past.
Well, and not to mention he wrestles exactly like Rick Rude and does the Rude Awakening.
Right.
And he hits the Rude Awakening, and Tony Schiavone goes, "That was the Rude Awakening." The only person that does that's Rick Rude.
Right. I wonder who it is.
Wonder who that is. God damn it!
No, this was one of my favorite storylines they ever did in ECW. Rude was fantastic during it. And
so was Shane.
Yeah.
Because he was terrified of Rick Rude, but he wouldn't he wouldn't put it over, but he was terrified. And Shane says, if you're such a big man, why don't you take your mask off and show us who you are? And Rude says, well, because if I take my mask off and show you who I am, you're going to shit your pants. You're going to have to smell it. And he says, I got somebody in the back that'll fight you for the TV title. So let's see if you can face him. Are you going to face him? Or are you going to show everybody that you're hung like a hamster? And Shane goes, who you got? It can't be Tommy. And Rude's like, obviously not. He's out of here. And he's like, can't be Terry Funk. And he's like, obviously. And then he goes, here's my guy. The music hits, and it's Gary Wolf.
Yep.
Who runs out, and it never turns into a match. It's just Gary Wolf beating the shit out of Shane Douglas, and Shane Douglas retreating, and that's how we go off the air. And that's ECW.
Yep.
Actually a really good show.
It was the perfect way to reintroduce Gary Wolf, that he wasn't injured anymore and that he was back at 100%. And it was also the perfect way to reintroduce Rick Rude to wrestling, because he wasn't in WCW anymore. He wasn't in WWF anymore. And what better place for him to pick to start up than I've always called the ECW this, and I don't mean it as a put down, but they were like the land of misfit toys. Wrestlers went there to fix themselves and then come back better.
Rude hadn't done anything for 3 years.
Right, exactly. But when you think about it, Austin left WCW.
Paulie always had a mishmash roster.
Right.
And he made the best of what he had,
Right. And anybody who wanted to come through and be like, hey, it's me, he let them do it. Austin, Pillman, Rude, you know what I mean?
Rich.
Tommy
Rich. Tommy
Rogers.
Like, who in 1997 was like, you know what, let's book Tommy Rich?
Right.
Nobody. But Paulie was like, hey, let's book Tommy Rich, and he got something out of him. You know what I mean?
You guys are watching the old watching the older ECW for reliving the extreme. Arn Anderson used to pop up there, Snuka, the Road Warriors, the Steiners,
Blanchard.
It's like Paulie would hear a wrestler had a falling out with one of the big promotions and go, hey, you want to come work 3 dates over here and I'll pay you pretty well? And those guys would go, sure.
You know who has a really cool run in ECW?
Who?
Ron Simmons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
him and Scorpio.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't he play heel there too?
He did.
Yeah,
He did. At first, he came in as a challenger for Shane Douglas,
right.
but yeah, ultimately he does do a heel turn.
Yeah, because he was heel when he left WCW, so they kind of they just fed off of that. Like you said, he went to fight Douglas, and then they just went right back to it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
but like I said, it's not a put down.
He was a guy Hogan ran off.
Yep.
Yeah,
He
Yep.
was afraid of him.
Rude.
He was afraid of him.
Well, I don't know if either one of you watch Broken Skull Ranch, Broken Skull Sessions with Steve Austin, but he recently had the Godfather on there, and Godfather's mentioning, he got a call from WCW, and they wanted to put him in the NWO, and he was going to do it because he wasn't really doing anything in the WWF at the time. He was in between Papa Shango and becoming the Supreme Fighting Machine Kama, and Ron Simmons is the one who saved him from going there. Because he said, look, you've never been to Atlanta. You don't know what those boys are like down there. They're going to call you every name in the book, including the N-word, and you're going to end up fighting somebody and getting fired. And Godfather's like, well, how do you know that? He's like, why do you think I'm here?
Yeah.
So it just goes to show Hogan knew what he was doing to get people out of that company.
How fucking cool looking was that Papa Shango?
Oh, yeah.
I know this, Aaron, we're talking about 97. It's your show. I'm not trying to take it off the rails, but I know a lot of guys that, the little fucking, I only watched New Japan Pro Wrestling between 1987 and 1997 because I know all those guys like to shit on it. But first of all, other than the goofy ass warrior shit, I really enjoyed the Papa Shango gimmick.
Oh, yeah.
I thought, except when they were doing the really, really cartoony, because voodoo's a real fucking thing. It's not like it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That character and Charles Wright playing it, when I was a young dude, a little dude, I thought he was scary and it was cool and blah, blah, blah.
Those promos and like fire would be around him and shit.
Yeah.
And that revitalized look that they were thinking about doing for like an updated Papa Shango.
Oh, that Candyman looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God damn, that was cool as shit looking. Yeah. I actually wish it would have happened.
if they would have.
Yeah, but if they would have done that, we probably would have got Kane.
Well,
maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
But anywho.
You
guys got anything else on this week of 1997?
Good week, actually.
Yeah, sounds like a good week of shows.
Yeah.
And
excuse me.
I know Aaron's the one that has to watch it for the purposes of his show. I'm glad I don't have to watch Sold Out, but I will definitely have that. I like to watch things in chronological order, as I say all the time. But there are certain things I skip, and to be honest, a lot of times when I'm watching shit in chronological order, I skip Sold Out.
Yeah,
that's a rough one, man. But
you guys gotta watch it.
We'll talk about it next week.
I still remember it. It's still engraved in my brain, so I don't need to rewatch it. You'll talk about it, and I'll just say how shit it was.
It's like those times you've accidentally shit yourself in your life. You remember it. You don't need to.
Good point, Nate.
It was traumatic.
Yeah. You were a little embarrassed.
Show me on the doll where the NWO pay-per-view hurt you. Everywhere.
So that is what we have to look forward to kick off the show next week is NWO Shit Your Pants.
Yes. Yeah. That would have been a better name.
All right, guys. You got anything else?
No, sir.
All right. We're going to go ahead and sign off then. Obviously, keep following us on Facebook, all the different pages. We Can't, Reliving the Extreme, World Championship Customs, and keep listening on WrestleNet Radio and join that group and share it. It's awesome. There's always something on. So with that being said, week 3 of 1997 has come to an end.